I'm very interested to see who you think is the top safety. You want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is number 1 being the best, and we get to the worst, or you want to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? We start talking about.
Let's go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You'll go 5, and then I'll do my 5, and we'll go back and forth to see how this all works out. Who's your number 5 safety when you rank them?
Well, it was between Talanoa Hufanga and it was between Derwin James. And I had to go with Derwin because Derwin played this year. But the biggest problem with Derwin, I have him at 5, is because they don't play him the right way. They got him playing cover 2. They got him playing 22 yards back in the deep part of the field. If I'm coaching Derwin James, I'm taking him, I'm putting him over the slot, I'm blitzing him. He's going to be a factor in the run. He's going to line up all over the field. That's my number 5.
Yeah, I remember playing against him. We played, and it was like every single play. It was like Derwin James on the tackle, and we looked at the box score at the end of the game, 14 tackles, just all over the field. No, Derwin James is an unbelievable player. My number 5, I went with a guy that has great versatility, and you just talked about him. I have Justin Simmons as my number 5 guy. I think, for one, I remember when this guy was young, and he was on that Denver defense with T.J. Ward and Darren Stewart, and he would just come in different packages. And I remember sitting there like, man, this kid is pretty good. And to see just the way he took off, and you hit it earlier, I think his ability to always be in the right position. When they blitz him, he disguises it perfectly so he's free on the blitz. Then when he sits in that kind of robber area in their cover 4 schemes, he always finds the route. He understands route combinations. Jumps a pass, interception. He's just been so consistent. I mean, he's a free agent right now. He got released. He was a second-team All-Pro player last year. Like, what?
Bro,
I don't understand how teams are waiting.
If you're the Patriots, how do you not pick up the phone and call this guy? I mean, you lose a Devin McCourty, and now you lose an All-Pro safety in Devin McCourty, but now you have an opportunity to go out and get adjusted. Man, are you kidding me? That would have been one of the first calls I'm.
Same thing with Buffalo. You lose Hoyer and Hyde. I'm thinking you implement Justin Simmons in there, you get the same level of play in Buffalo that they kind of need on the defense. But who knows why no one has called this guy. He's one of the best safeties in football.
So for me, I'm looking at I really like Jesse Bates in Atlanta. I thought he had an outstanding year. I thought he was fantastic, tackling, really taking over that secondary. I thought he was worth all the money that they paid him.
Yeah, I love seeing it because he was able to continue what he did in Cincinnati at a new place and not skip a beat. Probably even played at a higher level, which doesn't always happen for free agents when you get to a new city. So it was cool to see Jesse Bates do that. My number 4 guy is another, I think, young and up-and-coming guy, Kyle Hamilton. Last year, phenomenal, just his ability. I mean, he was lining up in the slot on Jamar Chase against Cincinnati. And then he was going to blitz. Then he was playing in the deep part of the field, just does so many different things. And even in their loss in the AFC Championship game to Kansas City, I thought he was the one guy that just stuck out on that defense. Defense has a bunch of great players in Baltimore, but he just looks like he's moving at a different speed, running, hitting guys. He's physical. He's 6'3". I love watching Kyle Hamilton's game, and I love it because I play safety, and I look at him, and I'm like, how did we both play safety? What he's able to do with his size, I could never do. So it's a lot of fun watching him compete.
No doubt. I got a chance to watch him a lot, and I'm going to talk about him in a few. But I would say my number 3 safety would be Antoine Winfield Jr. You know, you and I, we talked about him this year. We were really excited the way he played, the level of consistency in which he played. And we talked about it. Every time we watch this kid play, it seems like he's making a key play, interception, a strip sack, a hustle play, a tackle. He was just all over the place. Not a big safety, but plays big in his heart. He's my number 3 safety.
I love it. And my number 3 guy is the guy you just talked about earlier, Jesse Bates. I think, obviously, I said it before, what he did in Cincinnati, then going to Atlanta, I thought he was able to make a difference right away. They start off the season, play against a rookie quarterback, and he made sure everybody knew Bryce Young was a rookie quarterback. Goes out there, picks him off.
He picked it off. I was watching that last night.
Yep. Picked him off in kind of the same way both times. And that's when you realize, like, all right, veteran safety. He's fearless. There's times I'm watching, I'm like, man, I think he's in the deep part of the field, but he didn't even backpedal. He just stood right there about 15 to 18 yards and played downhill and aggressive. I think he understands the game at a high level that allows him to make plays and play like that. So it's a lot of fun to watch, man. What you got in the top two?
Top two, I'm going with Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton was a young man that I was able to watch a lot. We had Baltimore a few times, 3 or 4 times last year. And I have to correct you, he is not 6'3". He's every inch of 6'4", and might be a little taller than 6'4". He is absolutely the biggest safety I've ever seen. And the way he's built, he's long, he's lean, but he's very strong and explosive. And just watching him and just spending some time with him, talking to him and asking him about what is he reading. He's not big and stiff. You know, you see a lot of those guys big and stiff. They can't open up their hips. He, like you said, he's going against a guy like Jamar Chase, who's 6 feet tall. He's jamming him, and he doesn't look out of place. Kyle Hamilton will be the best safety in the National Football League if he stays healthy this year. He can do it all, bro.
I wouldn't argue with that at all. I think he's phenomenal. My number 2 guy, it seems like he's an older veteran now, but he's still a young guy. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick in Pittsburgh, I think he didn't obviously have the year he wanted to, only playing in 10 games this past season, dealing with injuries. But I think what I've always loved about his game, he was in Miami, and I had Brian Flores as a safety coach. So when Flo goes to Miami, I'm thinking like sky's the limit for Minkah Fitzpatrick. He was outspoken that he didn't like the defense that he was in. He didn't think that they were using the right way. And they ship him out of there and they send him to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh puts him at free safety, and all you see is greatness come out of this guy. He knew what he needed to do on the field, where he needed to be. Pittsburgh gave him the keys. And the times that Pittsburgh struggled on defense, I thought it was primarily because Minkah was out and he wasn't in there to lead that group in the secondary, to be their guy. So I'm looking for him to have a great year this year, to come back. And again, he's a Jersey guy, played high school football in Jersey, so I've been hearing about him for years. So it's fun to see how he's able to execute and play at a high level in the NFL.
Yeah, it was really fun for me to come up with my number 1 safety in the league, and a guy that played all over the field in college, played at the University of Alabama, and you just talked about him, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Hands down, man, just watching him, he can play in the slot, which he played in college. He can play safety. He can play corner. I mean, this is a guy that really literally reminds me of Charles Woodson. And I told Charles, I said, I believe that you and Rod Woodson are the 2 guys that could play every position in the secondary and be an all-pro. And that's Minkah Fitzpatrick. He could be a cornerback left, right, because he studies, he prepares, he works. He's a great team guy. He is just a fantastic player. It's like he's like you. He's got corner skills, safety instincts, tough, and can just do it all. You know, just a fantastic player. And you're right. Last year, when they struggled at times on defense, it's because he wasn't back there leading the group, getting everybody lined up, making all the checks and adjustments, all the things that great safeties do.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, it's 27 years old. He's at the age usually where people are like, well, we're about to see his best years in football, 27 to 30, like that prime range. And he's already had all these all-pro seasons. My number 1 guy is the guy you mentioned earlier. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. is just an amazing watch. I think his ability to even play as big as he plays, he's not a big guy. And I think it's interesting because I remember being young in the league and watching Antoine Winfield playing in the nickel spot and be blitzing and be having interceptions. And then his son comes in and it's very similar. First gets in the NFL, yeah, he's playing safety, but he's playing more of the nickel. Todd Bowles has him doing so many different things. Then he gets back there and he's playing more safety and still some nickel sprinkled in there. And I just think his playmaking ability, it's not just the interceptions and the sacks, but it's running guys down, stripping the ball out against Carolina at the 2-yard line, causing a touchback. It's all of his instinctual plays that just show up over and over again in any type of game. They can be winning, they could be behind. He somehow makes that play to help the team. I think he's a young guy. I think he's the next up-and-coming guy. And I think what's so fun about this whole group is they're going to continue to have to battle. Like, we didn't even name guys like Xavier McKinney, Javon Holland. You mentioned Kyle Duggar earlier. Like, All of these different guys are just unbelievable safeties. Ufunga, who you mentioned, like, we're going to get to watch this next group of like 7 to 8 guys, and I'm sure more guys will get sprinkled in there. Are going to go out and battle each year for 4 All-Pro spots every single year at the Pro Bowl. So it's going to be fun to watch if you love watching safety play.
So the only one that we didn't agree on really was the Justin Simmons and the Derwin James, huh?
Yep. That's the only one. And I mean, those guys, I mean, Derwin James, I think, like you said, was 100% right. He needs to be in a system that uses him to the best of his abilities. And I'm excited to see him this year now with a new coaching staff to see how they use him. But what was so interesting to me about Derwin James is I was more impressed when I used to watch them show practice clips. He'd be doing one-on-ones with Keenan Allen, who was one of the most shiftiest guys that have to cover. And Derwin James would be all over him. So he's just, to me, he's an unbelievable player that needs to get back in the right spots to have that kind of impact on the game.
Yeah, and and Coach Harbaugh, I played with Coach Harbaugh when he was in San Diego for maybe 2 or 3 years. He's gonna have that offense going. They're gonna run the football, but you better believe they're gonna take their best defensive player and they're gonna put him in a position where he can make more plays and he can have more of an impact. Because watching as we prepare for these games this past season, I would get so frustrated. I said, you have Derwin James. You could put any safety, any body, any person back there to back paddle 22 yards. You want him closer to the action. You want him involved, causing havoc. And, they just didn't play him the right way.
It's funny. When you say that, I think about what Bill used to always tell us in meetings. Good players can't overcome bad coaching. I used to always hear whenever I see a guy out of position, I'm like, that's just bad coaching. He can't overcome it. Bill was right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.